and got myself a new job in space exploration. Ha ha! Unfortunately, I've had a bit of a prang on my first outing, and I found myself wrecked in this crater on Archelon 1. Will you help me escape, or will I die here, alone?
Today we return to New Adventure Systems for the Spectrum by S. Robert Speel, but this time we're not in the dim and distant past, but instead in the future. We are looking at the preset future system, which is similar to the preset fantasy system we've looked at previously. The same program structure is used, however the vocabulary is different. The system is set in the future, and you are an explorer of new worlds who gets into various difficult situations. There is no magic in this system, but you are aided by some of the best futuristic technology. Spacecraft that cannot fly, communicators that won't communicate, blasters that get used up, and many others. The first one is called Crater on Archelon 1, which in its original form fits into 16K. While flying on a reconnaissance mission on an unmapped planet, you eject from your planet hopper before it crashes into a crater. Although you have a communicator, it will not work through the side of the crater, and so you must get away from the crater before you can use it. Another problem is that your communicator has a flat power cell, so you'll have to find the wreck of your hopper to get a spare. So we start off with a description here. We have our planet hopper crash into the crater, calling for help, battery's flat and it won't work in the mist. Can I repair the communicator and get out? I'm currently standing on rocky ground with a crater wall to west and south. Thick mist all around. Type status and you get a list of what you're carrying, which is an antenna, a communicator and a flat cell. Let's go north. As you can see, the text appears in whole words. Not the whole string all at once, but individual words. This is because Mr. Speel uses a compression technique, which A saves space and B means when you type it in, you don't know what's going on, which is really good. So let's try and climb these creepers covering the cliff. We need to escape. Can I climb? No, can't do that. Can we go up? No, can't do that. Let's go up. So, I'm on a ledge. There are creepers which climb to the top of the cliff. Well, this sounds pretty good. We're out of the crater. Up we go. I climb higher, and the creeper breaks. I fall. I am dead. Another try. So, this is good. I think we can make it better, though. Shall we? So, various ways of making things better. I'm going to create a little loader program to put some of these in advance of the main code, just so I can reuse it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is enter a clear command, which sets RAM top to 63999. So anything above that is going to be mine to play with, because I'm going to use some fonts. Then we'll have a loading screen. I like having loading screens. They're pointless now because we've got instant loading via emulation, but we like loading screens. And if you're going to have a loading screen, after that you want to turn off printing to the screen with poke 23739, 111, the magical Jonathan Caldwell poke. I don't know why it works, but it does work. Next we're going to do is load some bytes into address 64,000. That's why we did clear 63999, because we're loading some stuff into 64,000. This is going to be a font or a character set, which will make our program look a bit more sci-fi. And to show you what that is, 249 times 2456 is 63744, and we're poking 256 less than the address of our font into the appropriate system variable 23607. And then line 100, we're going to load the program. But we're going to do a little bit more first. We're going to set up a user-defined graphic because we're going to improve the death screen slightly. Here I'm setting a number, which is 128 plus 32 plus 8 plus 2. And another number here is going to be 64 plus 16 plus 4 plus 1. And what we're then going to do is, very, very slowly and poorly, create a user-defined graphic using graphic A, alternating these to give us the dithered graphic we got on the ZX81. Annoyingly, on the ZX Spectrum, you don't get a dithered graphic by default. You do get a graphic on key 8, which is space. So what we're doing here is poking every alternate byte in a user-defined graphic A with the first value. So the current value is 0, plus 2, plus 4, and then plus 6. We then use the edit command to bring it back, doing the same for 1 and B, 3 and B. Well, what this will mean is when we type graphics mode A, we'll get our new dithered graphic. So currently graphics A looks like the letter A. Not very exciting, is it? What's the point of doing that? Because we haven't actually overridden it yet. So that's a nice dithered effect. We'll be using that to get some more colours out of the system, because you can only have 2 colours in any one square, but if you dither it, it looks about all right. Whenever you type a key on the spectrum, you get a basic click sound, which you cannot turn off. However, you can alter it. You can certainly make it the click longer. So, if we look at the value in 23609, this controls the length of the beep you get when you press a key. Currently it's 0. So what I'm now going to do is change that to be 60, and then move the low to the next line. So if we now poke 23609 with 60, we then get beeps. And to make sure we have done it right, and that is to give a nice sort of teleprinter sci-fi type effect. You know, improves the immersion. Then we save our loader with the beeps in effect. So we turn the beeps on line 100. We then need to load the cassette in a very certain way using ZX Block Editor, and then we can play our game again. So this is created on Archelon 1 version 1.2. I made a couple of minor changes as well as the font stuff. When you pick up an object, use the word take. I've also added the option of using the word get. It's fairly simple, get, take, easy to do. You just have to be aware that because the verbs are different length, to do a slightly different subroutine to help with the parsing. With regard to putting objects down, the game as written only comes with put, as in put something down. You can't drop anything, which I found baffling. So I've added a drop command, which works exactly the same as put. Nice and simple to do. Again, different length. We've also added status, which is built into the game, added inventory as a synonym for that. We also have here a loading screen. It's also attached to a loading screen. Here for crater on Archelon 1, you can see the crater, you can see the planet in the sky, and the nice sci-fi font. Copyright 1984 S. Robert Speel. So the game is now loaded. We're now initializing all the arrays and the variables and the whatnot. And away we go. We now have a nice sci-fi font, plus the beeping. If you notice now, the letters are appearing, the words are appearing as individual letters with a little beeped effect there. We're standing on the rocky ground with the crater wall to the west and south. And when we type, we also get the beep. And here we have inventory. It took me a few goes to get the beep right. So when I print a character, I also put the beep out. And it's something like beep 43.4 or something or other. There is a certain tone of beep. I couldn't find the exact tone, but I've got one pretty close. So currently carrying an antenna, a communicator, and a flat cell, because our battery is flat. We've now moved east onto the cracked hard mud with rocky ground at all sides. Keep moving further east. Now in the centre of the crater, I think the font is really lovely. The font is got from Charset by Roberto Colombo. The big thing with fonts is to make sure that they work for the case of characters we're going to use. Because we're using a lot of lowercase, you can make sure it looks good in both upper and lower. Some only look good in uppercase. So moving around the crater, And now I've found the wreck of our space hopper, planet hopper, sorry if you've got a space hopper, not the same thing. So by the wreck of the planet hopper, with cliffs to the north-northeast, and there's a power cell. So here I can get the power cell. Get being a synonym for take. So let's now head west. And I'm standing on hardened mud with higher ground on all sides. Excellent. So let's keep moving. My weight is too much. The hardened mud breaks. I fall through, and I drown. And here we use the UDG to create a dithering effect of red and green, which gives us a mud effect. Here is victory. All we have to do now is call for help and wait. And you get a nice picture of the crater done with the graphics characters and a little drawing of your man. So that was created on Archelon 1. Let's now move on to the Mountains of Sirius 2. In the descriptions and the messages inside the preset future system and the fantasy system, Mr. Speel uses Z-string, which is a sequence of very strange characters, and then go subs to a subroutine to turn it into a string. That's why words appear as whole words, not as characters, not as the entire string. Here, I'm experimenting with string compression. You are in a dark room, full stop, it's 23 bytes long. If you compress it by looking for the words in a sequence of data statements, you can turn it into tokens, which are individual letters here, and it's 7 bytes long, which is a considerable saving. The next message is you are in an eerie cavern. There is a portcullis to the north, which is 63 bytes long. I'm now going through all the data statements looking for the individual tokens, after which I shall produce a string of characters. This is not necessarily entirely what Mr. Speel's done, but it's close. The difference is he has a lot more tokens than I do, and he has much stranger characters. So here we are, BCD, left square bracket, MN, ZXY, EQRSTZ. He uses things like hash and all the brackets, and even user-defined graphics, which are a problem because they're hard to tell when they're printed. The worst one to tell when you're printed is this space character, which isn't actually space, but is in fact the graphics key on number 8, which is entirely space, which is character 128. So here I'm now decoding the string, so it's turning BCD, left square bracket, MNX, blah 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 blah, into the different characters. Here's another string. You are in a bright vault. There is a sarcophagus, 50 bytes. You're going to encode this. You run out of memory quite quickly in text adventures unless you do this kind of thing. When I typed in the CIA adventure, I ran out of memory and had to be very careful with my string handling. So here that's only 12 bytes. So that's 75% compression. And just to prove it works, you go back the other way. Blue is compression, red is decompression. It's a little bit slower, depends how fast you do it. I'm in a bright vault. Every time you add a new token, for example, full stop, you have to add a new value. His Mr. Speel also includes values for spaces and double spaces and commas and backspace, for example. So if there are multiple things, you obviously put an S on the end for plural, but whenever you type a token, you always put a space after it, but here you can type in a backspace. So that's roughly how the end result works. Let's see how the actual code works. So it's a series of string data statements. For example, U. We don't put the space on after that, because that would be a waste of a byte for every token. So you are in a dark room, perhaps. So these are that'll be built into an array of data statements. Here are a number of them. We add them up. We then create a string, which is going to be our description, which is the long form. You are in a dark room. Full stop. I have to add the full stop later because I forgot that was a token. And then we print that string and then the length of the string. You run that, yeah. You're in a dark room, 23 bytes long. Now what we need to do is to split the string into the individual words. We're looking for space. We also need to look for full stop as well. So essentially we run that and we get, yeah, you're in a dark. So you've got the individual words. And now we need to look for those words and try and find them in the data. So we go around the data loop, restore 10, read every item in the data until we find it. So U is the first one, which is B, R, C, etc.
What ho! Having escaped from Archelon 1, I've been given a brand new space hopper. Hooray! Unfortunately, I've had another bit of a problem. Over on Sirius 2, the space hopper appears to have sprung a fuel leak, and now I'm abandoned. But good news though. Good news. This time they've given me a blaster, so I can shoot anyone who gets in my way. Ha-ha!
Mountains of Sirius 2. This scenario is much more difficult to win than Crater on Archelon 1. You have landed your spaceship and gone exploring in your planet hopper, not space hopper. After landing on the shore of a large ocean, you find that your hopper does not have enough fuel left to take off again. Its fuel tank was leaking. Your task is to get back to your ship, which is somewhere to the west of you. You have a small dinghy, not much use on the rough ocean, but handy if you can find a river. You also have a blaster, which can be shot twice, and a power cell to recharge your blaster once. There are no special commands needed to use the dinghy. If you go on water and have the dinghy with you, the computer assumes you are in it. To use the blaster, type shoot followed by the target name. For example, shoot Ice Beast. That's a good idea. Or shoot power cell. Not such a good idea. To recharge your blaster, you must be holding both the blaster and the power cell and type recharge. The charges in your blaster and power cell are now given when you type status. There are monsters in this scenario, and once you meet one, it must be dealt with immediately. Running away won't work, nor will using your blaster solve everything. The game is loaded. This is the original version as typed in from the book. No special enhancements done as of yet. Mountains of Sirius 2. You can see here the words are appearing. There is no beeps. We've run out of fuel. And we are by the sea. We have a blaster, a power cell, and a dinghy on the floor. What should we do? Pop quiz hotshot. Let's head out east of the sea. You go out to sea and you drown. Okay, we expected that. We drown in the sea. That's rather foolish. So try again. I'm on a rocky headland by my planet hopper. The sea is to the north, south, and east. So let's now take the dinghy. And let's try going to sea again. The lonely sea in the sky. I go out to sea in my dinghy and soon fall out and drown. The sea is death. Let's try again. This game has 22 locations, including the sea. So let's take the blaster. Excellent. And let's now head west. I'm on the north side of a bay with the sea to my south. So going south obviously would be death. Don't go to sea. Let's head west. I'm on a rocky plain with mountains to my west. A trail leads to the mountains. I meet a rock beast. Oh, let's be friendly. Let's greet the rock beast. You know, he might be a friend. I cannot do that. The rock beast kills me. I am dead. So, let's make it better. Text is all very well, but what about adding a bit of graphics? As Mr. Speel notes, adding graphics to a text adventure makes it more enjoyable, and they can be used to make winning a special occasion. There are three main types of graphics. User-defined graphics. I created one of those with my dithered effect. Low-resolution graphics, or block graphics. You saw those in the winning of a Crater on Archelon 1. And high-resolution graphics, which are the little man at the end of Crater on Archelon 1. User-defined graphics are made up of little small symbols, and they're quite nice, but because you have to define them first, they take quite a lot of memory. Low-resolution graphics are easy to form, easy to colour, and very suitable for landscapes. Unfortunately, they are rather chunky, therefore not very suitable for drawing monsters, apart from the T-Rex in 3D Monster Maze. So they're useful for a winning picture, perhaps, like at the end of Creature Archelon 1. However, having dozens and dozens of them will be very costly in memory and lack fine detail. Here, I can see a line 1010. I'm entering a load of numbers. This is going to be for a high-resolution drawing, where I'm telling I've got 34 data items and then combinations of X and Y directions. So I'm going to draw across 4 pixels, up 0 pixels, across 0 pixels, up 3 pixels, and so on. It's time-consuming to colour in these drawings, therefore Mr. Speel doesn't do that. He just does an outline drawing, because it says, well, why wait for 45 seconds for a picture to draw itself in when you want to play a game? So a nice for loop here. By changing the initial plotting position, you can change where the picture appears on the screen. Unfortunately, big lists of numbers like this are incredibly expensive because the single 0 takes about 5 bytes on memory. So each picture may take 500 bytes because there's an awful lot of numbers. You could put the whole thing in quotes as a string. However, wouldn't it be handy dandy if you, in fact, compress this into a string a few lines long? And he does this. When we finish typing this in, he has a nice little routine that converts each pair of numbers into a single character, which works fine because you can't go a maximum of +5 or -4. So a typical string becomes a string of about 3 lines of characters, or about 100, and it gives us 2 routines for doing so. Line 9000 is the graphics coder. So here we are. We're going to run our little routine. We're starting at 100, 100. I'm going to run this, and we get a little drawing of a penguin. That's all handy dandy. So now we're going to enter his coding routine. And what it does, it takes the individual bytes, it reads them 2 at a time, and then converts them into a string, into a graphics, a character, a printable character, based on the 2 values. So essentially, you're looking at the first 4 bits and the second 4 bits. So read through the list, creating a string called endString, and that will spit out a string of printable characters that you then type into your actual program. So it's character string, the value of A1 plus 8, so that's -4 to 5 multiplied by 10, plus the value of A2 plus 4. And this somehow becomes into a character. The only one you have to watch out for is 4, 4, because that turns into character 128, which is the character you get on graphics string 8, which looks like space, but is not space. And if you put space in, your picture won't work. Here I'm now going to tell you what endString is. We've got quotes in it, so you have to use double quotes to say it's a quote. So we run this, and we get a string out, which is bar WEXBYNCL at blah 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 blah. And those are all printable characters, and you put them into your string, so that saves a huge amount of code. But there's more. What we can also do is by providing the start position and a magnifying effect, you can also get move pictures around the screen and even do backwards if the magnifying effect is negative. This is the Mountains of Sirius 2 version 1D. I've made a number of changes to this. I kept the beeping and the font from Crater and Archelon 1 because I like those. I also kept the user-defined graphic for death and the death screen because I like that death screen. I've also kept the use of get as a synonym for take, for drop as a synonym for put, and inv as a synonym for status. I created a loading screen, as you can see here. What we have is a moon made out of multiple lines drawn with a portion of a circle, and we have a nice font at the bottom for S. Robert Speel, but the word mountains is written in draw effect. I then use the Spectrum's colour clash to give the mountains a nice snow-capped effect, and then random stars at the top. We also have 2 bits of machine code from Hardman and Hewson's 40 best machine code routines for the ZX Spectrum. One is to do with scrolling, and one is to do with filling in of bits of the screen. And we shall see those shortly. I've also made a change to the scenario ever so slightly. There is 1 extra verb, 1 extra object, and an extra bonus hidden ending, or an improved ending, so like an ending plus if you prefer. The other change I've made is once the game is actually loaded, I change the colours of the border to give you a clue that something is going on. Here the screen goes blue because we're actually loading data. Originally it just went white, so I thought, is it actually broken or not? It's not broken. It stays blue for a while it decodes all the verbs and the objects. They're all encoded in a rather bizarre manner. It works, but it's kind of like the Enigma machine. Adding a new verb and a new object was a pain. The Mountains of Sirius 2. You are on a scouting mission on the planet Sirius 2 when you find that your planet hopper has run out of fuel. You recall flying east from your spaceship and going over some mountains before you landed on the coast of an ocean. Can you find your way back past the mountains to your spaceship? Here is the scrolling up routine that is a pixel at a time from Hardman and Hewson. You print in black text at the very bottom of the screen and then scroll up pixel by pixel. The bottom two lines are black ink on black paper. The rest of the page is white ink on black paper, and as it scrolls up, it moves into the attribute so you can see it. And I just scroll up every 12 bytes, 12 pixels, add a new line, and then press any key to start. So now we are on a rocky headland by my planet hopper, not a space hopper. Nice effective beep. The sea is to the north, the south and the east. There is a blaster and a parasol and a dinghy. So this time let's get the dinghy to prove I've added this in. That works fine. And let's head out to sea. Take me out to the sea again. I'll go out to sea in my dinghy and soon fall out and drown. So this is the drowning effect, a cyan and blue screen with "You died" in great big letters. Another try. Now, I soon realised that having a slowly scrolling introduction gets annoying when you die quite a lot, and I do die quite a lot. So on a subsequent go, you get just the text on the screen, no scrolling, and it's very quick to go past. So we're now back on the rocky headland by the hopper. Sea is to the north, the south and the east. We've got a blaster, a parasol and a dinghy. So I'm going to take my blaster and take the parasol. You need the parasol to recharge the blaster once it's run out of energy. You get 2 shots in the blaster and 2 additional shots in the parasol. Now we head west. We're now on the north side of a bay, not Michael Bay, with the sea to my south. So going south would obviously be death. So let's now head west. I'm on a rocky plain with mountains to my west. A trail leads through the mountains. Da da da! I meet a rock beast, and this is using the vector type graphics effect from Mr. Speel. I've also printed some spaces with different coloured ink. When I draw the shape of the alien beast, 2 circles for eyes, a trapezoid for a mouth. I then use the fill routine from Hewson and Hardman to fill in all the space in between with blanks. So I greet the rock beast, and the rock beast kills me. So you get a new death screen coming up with the purple and the red coming from the bottom as if you're being engorged by the beast. So let's now look at the ending screen. Because I'm not going to spoil it. You can play the game, both games, either original version or my version from Jim Blimey's website. So the ending screen here, we draw the nice spaceship. Again, this is all done using Mr. Speel's space-saving technique. The only problem I had was diagonally going up force 4-4, which is used on the thrusters of the spaceship. That resolves into what I thought was a space, was in fact Graphic 128 character. And we now draw the famous mountains of Sirius 2 up at the top of the screen. There were some bugs in the original book. One was to do with I just couldn't read what the encoded message was, so I fixed that, and one exit was wrong. The other issue was when you use certain objects, they're removed from your inventory but you still count as carrying them, which becomes a problem when you have inventory-based puzzles. I fixed that in both versions as well. So, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.